What's going on, everybody? Jolt here from TheTokenMinorities, and I am back with the Week 9 team builder of the GBA Season 8, where your Kansas City Giraffe Chiefs are preparing to take on pokeaimMD and his Bronx Beartics in a divisional rematch. Now, a little bit of a refresher in case you didn't see the first match or maybe just forgot about it. We definitely did very well against Joey in the first matchup, winning 5-0 on the back of a very fat double grass core of my Breloom and my Mega Venusaur. Both of those Pokemon gave him so much trouble, he decided to not bring the Necrozma, which was honestly his only response to both of those Pokemon collectively. So, needless to say, those two Pokemon really had a field day against him last time around. And with that in mind, you know, he is guaranteed going to be bringing Necrozma in this game, almost definitely as a setup variant as well. So right away, that's already a very simple piece of the puzzle to figure out and build around here with this team for this week. But you know, as a little bit of a formality, make sure to go check out pokeaim's channel. I know you guys are already very likely subscribed to Joey pokeaimMD, but you know, just in case you're not, go give him a look. Go give him a sub. He is the premier competitive content creator in singles, in my opinion. So make sure to go check him out. Now, like I already said, my man is bringing in a Necrozma this week, like 100%. I thought that was very obvious, both from just our discussions after the game as well as from his own commentary. He knew it right when he saw, I think right when he saw Team Preview, he really said that he wished he brought Necrozma to deal with Mega Venusaur. So we know Necrozma's coming. I think it's probably going to be a Calm Mind variant or potentially a Rock Polish variant or potentially a combination of the two. In either case, I do feel like the team I prepared here is going to be adequate in terms of being able to deal with that. But my man Joey did actually make a couple changes to his roster from last time, and they kind of looked like he was trying to counter team me a little bit. But we'll see what happens on that. As Joey decided to swap out the Stakataka for a Magnezone, which seems like a direct response to Celesteela, and then he decided to swap out the Miltank for a Linoon, which I mean, fair enough. I guess Linoon doesn't really match up too well against my team, so I'm not entirely sure if that one was targeted toward me. That was probably a little bit more generic. He wanted Linoon for another sweeper, and then he swapped out his what did he have? A TokenMinorities for a Licky, which is now a Z Crystal user instead of the TokenMinorities. So he picked up a couple normal types here. He lost a Stealth Rocker as well, which I think is actually kind of a big deal for a setup-oriented team. Setup-oriented draft like Joey's, only having two Stealth Rockers, one of them being a Rhydon and the other being a Necrozma, which is a Z Crystal holder, which typically would want to be more of a setup variant since it is a Z Crystal holder. I feel like that's kind of counterproductive in a sense, but the Magnezone pickup I think is really nice for his team. I really didn't see him bringing Stakataka, and I think he kind of felt the same way, that he wasn't going to be able to bring it either. So I do definitely understand the Magnezone swap. Licky, I assume he wanted just a special pivot that had the potential to passively heal up his team members as opposed to just Milk Drink on the Miltank. That's my guess as well. Linoon, I really don't know. I guess he just really wanted to try Linoon, which is fair enough. But even so, we have a kind of a new draft that we're building around this time around. But a lot of the most important components of his draft are still intact from last time. So there's some of the same principles that I can use in this rematch as what I used in the previous match. And this time, with this being the divisional rematch, and with it being pretty unlikely that I face Pokeaim in the playoffs, especially not in round 1, most likely not in round 1, I'm going to go into a little bit more detail in this team builder than I did in the previous team builder against him, as especially if I do manage to win this game against Joey, that does clinch my playoff position, I believe 100%, which is obviously going to be the goal here in this week. Despite picking up the loss last week, if we can win this specific game, we are clinched for playoffs, so that's pretty good, and I think that also puts him in a really tough spot for playoffs as well. So going hardcore in this matchup, and we'll see if we can pull out the win. But yeah, so just a few things I wanted to talk about here with this matchup is I already talked about the hazard situation, and from the standpoint of he only has 2 Stealth Rockers. He also only has 1 Remover and Whimsicott. I think that was also the case last time around as well. So his hazard removal, his hazard game in general, is pretty poor, I think, on his draft. And that's something that could have been really nice, especially additional Stealth Rockers for the setup-oriented draft that he has. But yeah, he doesn't have very good removal, he doesn't have very good setters. Another thing to point out here is his speed tiers are very convenient for Hydreigon. Okay, Hydreigon being base 98 speed, with Joey's team having 7 members that are below base 98 speed, and the other 4 members do not switch into Hydreigon at all. Whimsicott's the only thing that kind of switches in, but not really. I can easily tack on Flash Cannon or Fire Blast, making Whimsicott not a switch in, so I don't really count that too much. So basically what I'm trying to say is Hydreigon with a boosting item is so good against him. Last time in the first matchup I brought a Choice Scarf Hydreigon mainly because my team was more defensive by nature, and I wanted to make sure that I could offensively check him whenever he was able to get up some sort of boost against my more passive defensive members of my team. And as you'll see here, whenever I get into this team build, I'm not taking a passive approach at all in this matchup. In fact, I am taking an anti-setup approach just because I really think that Joey is going to try to get up some form of hazard early game and then just switch in setup sweeper after setup sweeper in an attempt to overwhelm me. So my team is going to be designed around the concept of denying those setup opportunities and breaking through him with stuff like Hydreigon, which is going to be Life Orb this week. Spoilers, I'll show you that here in just a second. And also a Life Orb to Breloom, which I think can do a lot of damage against this team, especially considering that I do expect him to expect me to once again bring that really fat defensive Breloom that I brought last time around, since that was so effective against him in the first matchup. So the only other thing I wanted to point out here before I jump into the team, his Fairy Resist are only Magnezone and Salazzle, both of which are quad weak to ground, so that's a pretty nice type combination that I can abuse as well. So now let's jump on over to the team real quick. So we're going to start this off with the Celesteela. So Joey did pick up Magnezone, as we already talked about here in free agency, and I do kind of think that Magnezone was meant to at least deter me from running a leftovers like fat Celesteela, which did prove to be really annoying for him last time around, especially for his Heracross that really wanted to be able to sweep me with his Choice Scarf set. So with that in mind, I do want to go a little bit more on the offensive with my Celesteela, mainly because that ensures that it's still going to be useful in this matchup while still having that defensive presence of the Steel Flying typing. So running Autotomize this week, the combination of Air Slash, HP, Ice, and Fire Blast hits his entire team at least neutrally. There are very few things on his draft that are able to take on a Celesteela, especially at +1, and Z Air Slash allows me to get that +1 relatively easily. Now, something that's really nice about this set is that last time around I showed Shockwave on Celesteela, which means that Joey is not going to go into Gyarados right away on this, and if he is going straight into Gyarados, he's going to Mega Evolve probably, which is really nice for my Breloom, or he is going to go into Gyarados to scout for Shockwave, which I think is really nice for this thing in terms of getting the ball rolling, getting the snowball rolling with the Celesteela, as once I get +1, +2, even +3, the game is probably going to be over because there are so limited ways for Joey to be able to check this. The only thing that can offensively check this at +2, given my investment, is a Scarf Salazzle, and I think in order for Salazzle to be really effective against my team, it needs to be a Life Orb variant, most likely, although Choice Scarf could still be good. I have to play basically appropriately around that. I do have proper responses to it here coming up soon, but overall this is going to be the win condition in this game, and the rest of my team is going to be built in such a way that optimizes the opportunities for this to try to set up, as well as just breaks down the opposing Pokemon that are going to be an issue for this thing trying to set up in this game. A little bit in terms of the EV spread, the EVs allow me to outpace a +1 Jolly Zygarde after my Autotomize, which I think is pretty nice, just in case he's a Choice Scarf Zygarde, just in case he's already, maybe it's like a neutral situation, Zygarde versus Celesteela. That allows me to Autotomize on his Dragon Dance, which allows me to get off a faster Hidden Power Ice and hopefully take him out at that point, getting the snowball rolling with the Beast Boosts. And then I do have a little bit of extra HP and defense investment to ensure that I take a +6 Adamant Throat Chop from Linoon after Stealth Rock, which I think is the only possible way that Linoon can hit a Celesteela relatively hard at all. So unless he runs like Last Resort, I think that might do a little bit more damage than Throat Chop would. I'm not entirely sure, don't quote me on that, but that would be his only other real option there, which I think is a little bit unlikely, but you never really know. Even so, very good Pokemon against his team this week. Now, next up is the Hydreigon. This set is also really good against him. Like I already mentioned, his speed tiers for the most part are below base 98, meaning that a Breaker Hydreigon is so good against him, and I think the fact that I'm not bringing Choice Scarf Hydreigon might actually catch him off guard, as I've brought Choice Scarf Hydreigon so frequently throughout the season. I think like over 75% of my matches so far, I've had a Choice Scarf Hydreigon Hydreigon on my team. At least whenever I bring Hydreigon especially, it's been Choice Scarfed, it seems. So mixing it up in this sense I think is really good against him, especially with the combination Draco Meteor, Superpower, and Dark Pulse hitting his entire team neutrally. And if he wants to try to switch in something fat and pink like a Licky, it's going to take a Draco Meteor into a Superpower, and after Stealth Rock that definitely has a chance to knock him out. Now I also have Taunt on this, not for the Licky, as Licky does get Oblivious, it would be able to ignore my Taunt, but Taunt is actually more so to prevent him from trying to set up with a setup sweeper in my face after I've dropped a stat due to Superpower or due to Draco Meteor. So it's just a safety precaution. I thought about something like Tailwind in that slot as well, but opted for Taunt ultimately just to ensure that I'm not going to lose to setup sweepers, as this team is very, it's not as good at dealing with Pokemon that are at +1. Essentially. So I'm going to have a variety of ways on my team to make sure I can prevent him from getting those boosts in speed. So that's the general idea with the Hydreigon. Next up is the Breloom. Now this is another monster against this team. Now this is Life Orb, Adamant, with enough speed for modest Magnezone, just in case I need to put it to sleep, as it is possible for that Magnezone to be Chople Berry. I want to make sure that I can outspeed it in an emergency situation, or maybe I want to Spore in case I expect him to switch. Having that speed investment allows me to do that, and the combination Mach Punch, Bullet Seed, and Return allow me to hit his entire team neutrally as well. Now I'm running Return over something like Rock Tomb because of the fact, 1, that it does not miss, 2, it has a higher base power, and 3, I don't really need the speed drops, honestly. All I really need to be able to do is have a good neutral covered move against this team that can put stuff into range of Mach Punch, and Return does a better job of that in my opinion than Rock Tomb does. Plus Return is still able to knock out Salazzle after Rocks, guaranteed, and still has a very high chance to knock out Salazzle in one hit even without Rocks on the field, so I didn't really feel the need to pack the Rock Tomb to make sure that I could one-shot an incoming Salazzle. So yeah, that's about all there is to say on this set. Just overall really good breaker, a good way to check his speed threats. If he has like a +1 Zygarde, Adamant Mach Punch does a lot of damage to a +1 Zygarde. Just even if it's like fat, like really heavily invested in HP, it still does a lot of damage, and I should be able to get the Zygarde down into range at Breloom from a variety of options on my team. Mach Punch also nice, of course, for the Mega Gyarados, if I can force the Gyarados to Mega Evolve, which I think my team might be able to do just based upon my defensive response to Gyarados that I'm about to show you, but, you know, I guess we'll see on that, but Bullet Seed is also very spammable against this team. So next up is the Mega Venusaur. This set is just purely Phys Def. I don't need this thing to be specially defensive. I could have run Special Defense to help me better take on stuff like Magnezone and maybe Salazzle, stuff like that, maybe even like a Selgor, but it's just not worth it. I have other responses to Salazzle in the back. I have a team basically that doesn't care about Magnezone. Plus, even with no special defense investment, Magnezone doesn't 2-hit KO me unless he has choice specs, I believe. And even if he is choice specs, I think I might actually be able to take the hit. So this can deal pretty well with his entire team. I wanted full Phys Def because I want to be able to take hits as well as possible from the Mega Gyarados and from the Heracross. Now, one thing I do need to keep in mind. Actually, no, I'm not going to say that just in case I do face Joey in the playoffs. Yeah, we'll just move on from that. But yeah, just overall very good defensive Pokemon against the team. Leech Seed is nice and spammable, and the general idea is to basically Leech Seed on most switches, as if he ever decides to go hard Necrozma and I catch him with a Leech Seed, then I have very easy free responses to the Necrozma to the point where I'm not scared of it at all in the matchup. So that's pretty nice here with Leech Seed. Roars to, again, deny setup. This team is very heavily oriented around denying setup. I have Taunt on Hydreigon to deny setup. I have Spore on Breloom to deny setup. I have Roar on Mega Venu. I have other options on the rest of this team as well to deny setup opportunities. So this just continues that theme, as well as potentially spreading around some Stealth Rock damage against him, as he only has Whimsicott as a remover, and that's not a great Pokemon against my team in my opinion. So yeah, I think this is pretty good for that. And Sludge Bomb, just to be nice and spammable against him, his only real responses to the Sludge Bomb are the Magnezone potentially, or I guess Salazzle. Salazzle has to take rocks on entry and doesn't really appreciate any chip damage since it is so frail, and Magnezone just gets Leech Seeded or synthesized on and roared and all that, so I'm not too concerned about Magnezone when it comes to Mega Venusaur, honestly. So overall, just really good against him. Fat defensive tank that he will struggle to knock out, and if he wants to go hard Necrozma, then that's just great for me, because that's a free Gardevoir switch in, as Gardevoir is designed to be able to 1v1 the Necrozma, or at least get it to the point where I can take it out with other members of my team. If it is a Calm Mind Necrozma, I can Toxic it immediately and Calm Mind in its face as well, and I will be able to get it to the point where it's going to be checked by Hydreigon, or checked by even Aerodactyl. And if it is or even like checked by Breloom's Mach Punch, I guess, but if it is a Calm Mind's Rock Polish Necrozma, that means that he takes an extra round of toxic damage as he goes for the second setup move. I'm going to go hard into this Gardevoir against the Necrozma. So he's going to go for 2 setup moves. That gives me a turn to go for toxic, and then I can start spamming Calm Mind as well. Maybe just Calm Mind once. Might even just spam Moonblast. Depends on the situation. Depends on how healthy the Necrozma is. But even so, this is just a very, very convenient and kind of free switch into the Necrozma, especially considering I'm able to trace its ability here. I'm trying to think of what the ability is called. I'm kind of blanking on the name of the ability. It's not Filter, but it acts like Filter. Prism Armor, that's the one. So I'm able to trace the Prism Armor, which means even if he's carrying the Flash Cannon or carrying the Iron Head or whatever, I can probably take the hit pretty well. I will not take a +2, like if he's like Swords Dance Iron Head, I will not take that hit, but I don't expect him to be Swords Dance because I have the Celesteela, which would be able to pretty much hard wall that set, as there's no fire coverage that a Necrozma can get on the physical side that would be able to deal with the Celesteela. So yeah, then I have Toxic for Toxic to help me win the Calm Mind war. Calm Mind just to make sure that I am a threat to him even if he has Calm Mind of his own. Calm Mind also ensures that he can't like really freely check me with stuff like Magneton and Salazzle, and HP Ground of course to catch those offensive switch-ins to the only fairy resists on his team. So yeah, just overall really solid mon against him this week. HP investment to let me take a Z Flash Cannon. I believe after Stealth Rock from a timid Necrozma, I believe I can also take a +1 regular Flash Cannon as well. So that's also pretty good. So that's the Gardevoir, and then finally we have the Aerodactyl, which is my dedicated response to the Salazzle first and foremost. It's my Stealth Rocker as well. It's also a good check to stuff like Linoon. It's a good kind of a check to Heracross. It's definitely a check to Heracross. In a sense, it's a counter to a Heracross that's not clicking close combat. Or Stone Edge, I guess, but I don't really think he's going to ever lock into Stone Edge in this matchup. But even so, this is a good way to check the Heracross if needed. And I also have Taunt on this to, again, deny the setup. So basically, this thing's job is to make sure I don't lose to Salazzle and to just give him a really hard time. As I do have the Eye of Papa Berry, which, as you know, gives me back 50% of my health, and I do have the even HP stat to make sure that I can get myself down to the Eye of Papa Berry if I have to. Maybe I've taken a few rounds of Stealth Rock. I want to make sure that I get the Eye of Papa Berry at 25% instead of at 1%, as it's a little bit less useful if I get it at 1%, quite honestly. So that's the idea with this set. Overall, just really good against him. Really annoying for him, I think, to deal with, and maintains the theme of denying setup. So that is the team for this week. I do feel pretty good about the team. It's obviously very different than what I brought last time around. I think it really capitalizes on the things that I think Joey's going to over prep for this time around based upon how the last battle went. So that's what I'm hanging my hat on here with this team. Yeah, I'm a little weak to stuff like Scarf Heracross, but the thing is, if Scarf Heracross ever locks into Megahorn, that's a free setup for my Celesteela, and Celesteela does just win with pretty minimal support, quite honestly. He has to have a Scarf Salazzle to be able to check it in the late game, and if it's like mid game and I have stuff whittled, then the Celesteela can still win pretty easily, I feel. So, yeah, so if he ever locks into Megahorn, my Celesteela can set up. If he ever locks into Knockoff, my Celesteela can set up. And if he locks into Close Combat, the Mega Venusaur is a really free response. So I'm not really that concerned about a Scarfed Heracross. I think the bigger threat is something like a Flame Orb Heracross. That might be the biggest possible threat to this specific team, just because it's able to outspeed half of my team. Actually, over half. It actually outspeeds over half of my team, which is a little bit threatening, but he has to switch it in after Amon dies, pretty much. He could switch a hard into Breloom, I guess, but if I just get chip damage off on that thing with an Adamant Life Orb Bullet Seed, maybe even into a Mach Punch or a return into a Mach Punch, the Heracross is going to drop. So it's not easy for the Heracross to switch in against my team. And if my Mega Venusaur is healthy, then I can chip it down pretty easily with Sludge Bombs as well. So it's not easy for him to get in Heracross. He has to make some plays, I think, to be able to get it in well against me, but we're playing PokeAim. He's obviously a very good player, very competent player, so we might be able to pull a few plays like that. But I guess we'll just see. We're playing here just about an hour or so, so really looking forward to this game, and I hope you guys are as well. The battle's going to be coming out tomorrow in the early afternoon, I assume. Whenever PokeAim usually uploads, that's when this will be going up, I'm sure. So hope you guys are looking forward to that, and I will see you all tomorrow. Peace.